Hello and welcome to the first episode of the SAFR Podcast. My name is Avinder Singh Lally. I'm your host. Today I'm joined by Sunny.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for being here. So I'll talk a bit about what we're doing at the SAFR Podcast, and then we'll talk more about what Sunny's journey has been. But essentially what we're trying to do here is have authentic and real conversations with people working in careers, having political change, advocating for change, or people having impact within their local communities. So today, within our first episode, I'm really thrilled to have Sunny here. So Sunny, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Sunny Yang. I'm currently a level 7 apprentice, and bit of a weird career path. I'll talk you through that. I used to be the chair of Castle, which I'll go through, and I'm currently in a tax advisor role at a Big Four company called EY, and I'm both studying for the ACA through the level 7, and I'm also studying a qualification called the CTA, which is another addition to it.
Sure, amazing. Well, we've got a lot to cover today. A bit about me and Sunny. We actually met an organisation called the Association of Apprenticeships, which is a group or a community that advocates for an apprenticeship pathway. We met at a summer networking event, I believe it was 2022?
It was, yes.
Yeah. So it's been through almost 3 years now. So me and Sunny have been really good friends, and I thought he'd be a great first guest to have on this podcast. Let's talk about how you got into, you mentioned you work in tax, so let's talk about that journey of what you got you into tax to begin with.
Yeah, so, I didn't actually go into tax thinking that I wanted to be in tax. I think a lot of people would say the same in Big Four, is that they never came out of the womb and wanted to be a tax advisor or an accountant. And they usually don't think that's where they finish as well. There's a long career ahead of them, but it's a great start for anyone. So I wanted to be a lawyer.
True.
And then I wanted to become a professional fencer. And I picked all of the universities I wanted to go to based on how good their fencing club was. And that's kind of when my friends stepped in and my family stepped in. And I was like, hold on a minute, you sure you want to go to uni? Do you want to take a gap year out? So I decided to take a gap year out, try and become a professional fencer. I came back from a competition in Hungary, and then the whole world went into lockdown.
Right.
So that was a kind of career decisive moment for me. I also fell out of love with wanting to become a professional athlete at the time, and I thought, well, I've got nothing else to do. I'll just apply for some apprenticeships because I really liked business. I applied for EY, PwC and Deloitte, and I got offers from Deloitte and EY, and I ended up choosing EY. Started off as an assurance apprentice in their banking and capital markets branch in Canary Wharf, and I was doing a lot of their investment banking clients, their primes trading clients. 2 years later, I then got an offer from a different team, that's corporate tax advisory team, where they said, really like you, do you want to come work for our team? You can also do the CTA with us, which was another chartered taxation advisor exam. And I was like, yeah, sure, if you're willing to pay for it, I'll do it, more than up for it. So switched roles, and now I advise UK industry businesses, private companies ranging from football clubs to M&A transactions or international transactions, or post-deal, looking after the client. So a range of things, and I give them corporate tax advice and help out with other pieces of advice as well through the UI network.
Yeah, I mean, that's an incredible change from trying to be an athlete to working in a corporate world. What do you think was that sort of shift that kind of was like, maybe fencing it or isn't good, and something I want to pursue? Was it a coach that said you're not good enough, or was it a friend that was like, maybe you're going to try something else, man?
To be honest, I think I would have regretted it if I didn't go through that trial period. So I went through that trial period. I just realised that people wanted it more than I did. I personally think that being an athlete is probably the hardest job that you can ever have. The dieting is extreme, the training regime is extreme, and I've been very lucky that I've had people who've now won like junior world competitions, and are, some of my friends are helping out in the Olympics in Tokyo. Some are referees, some are actually competing. But I could never be them. I never cared about winning in fencing as much as they did.
Right.
And all my respect to them. And sometimes I'm in my office and I still look at it and I was like, oh, I wish I could be there with them. But I just felt like, you know what, this is not a career path for me. I've tried it, and this is the most important thing. I think you should try every career path that you want, especially when you're young, and then go for one that you like.
Yeah, get like a broad depth of what's, different experiences.
Yeah, and the problem is I do a lot of like these talks at universities or open evenings at schools, and I dislike it when people come up to me and go, well, I don't really know what I want to do, so I'm just going to go to uni. Because it's the exact same type of people that then come up to me at these uni conferences and go, oh, well, I'm like uni, I don't really know what I want to do, so I'm just going to do a master's. If you don't know what you're going to do, try everything, because until you've tried it, to me, you're never going to know what you do. So I think that's really important. Just try everything.
Yeah, for sure. And I completely agree with that statement. I mean, I also did a degree apprenticeship. Now I work in sales, which is completely different to working in the third sector. And it's been such an amazing experience where I'm constantly learning different things with different clients.
Yeah, and I always say an apprenticeship or whatever sort. I mean, actually at EY, people who come from universities, they still join our apprenticeship program. So it's the same level 7 program. A lot of people think that's different. It's not really. But that's probably, I would say, the best way to go in terms of if you really don't know what you're going to do. Because every day you work in industry, so it's probably very different, but I guarantee you get a really good view of how the world works through a job like that. I mean, for us, I don't know what sector. I work in a lot of different sectors now, helping out clients. I get to talk to some of their directors and CFOs, CEOs. It's really amazing. Some of them have really cool business ideas. And I think that's the way to find out about the world.
Yeah. And you've been doing that degree apprenticeship course for how long? The master's apprenticeship?
So now I've been doing it for 4 and a bit years, coming up to 5 years. I'm going to be doing it slightly longer until the end of this year because of that extra qualification that I have added on top, although it won't be part of my degree apprenticeship. It's kind of a weird one because a lot of the exams, they're intercalated, so they cancel out, so I don't have to do extra exams.
Right.
So a bit of a weird situation, but yeah, my apprenticeship's slightly longer because of that extra level 7 that I'm doing.
And typically, how long would the apprenticeship be?
Typically, it's around 4 or 5 years. It depends on how busy your life gets. It also depends on whether you fail or pass exams, or if something happens, you get extra qualifications, or you want to do something else. I've had people take a gap in the middle of their qualification because they wanted to go to secondment, which is just work in a different department abroad or something similar. So it's roughly the same. I think the graduate program at EY is a bit quicker. It's about 3 and a bit years. But for the ACA, at least, you have to have at least 3 years experience to time qualify. Additionally, with passing the exams.
Right. That's interesting. And do you have an endpoint assessment at the end of this?
Yes, we do. Although there's less emphasis on that endpoint assessment. The exam side of things is more... It's harder. It's 15 exams. I think they're reducing it now to 14 or 13. But for me, it's 15 exams. And then, obviously, if you want to do extra qualifications, then it's more exams. Is that similar to you?
No, for us, it was just, we had an endpoint assessment presentation. That was about 20-30 minute, where we spoke to someone from the Chartered Management Institute about what we've done for the past 4 years on our degree apprenticeship course. This episode of the SAFR Podcast is sponsored by Coupon King. Coupon King, having recently launched, is a platform where you can easily find working discount codes for your favorite web shops. It's as simple as going onto the website, searching your favorite brand,
clicking onto the icon and copying the code. All links will be available in the description below.
There was no exams. It was just that endpoint assessment presentation, which is quite nice. It's almost like you're reflecting on the past 4 years of your achievements. So yeah, I do. I'm not a big fan of exams, so I probably wouldn't want to do that.
Well, I'm not a big fan either, but honestly, I think they have been really useful, especially for the ACA. And you'll probably hear me brag a lot about the ACA only because I'm part of their society, which I'm sure we'll get onto later. But the certificate level exams, the first 6 exams you do, it's really good. There's a law exam, there's a tax exam, there's business, there's accounting, there's auditing. And it gives you kind of this whole picture of the professional services world. And that's really interesting because actually you can work with clients and get a view of like what you could go into. But you can also do these exams and find that you're suddenly interested in law or tax or finance. And these are things that you don't really learn in sixth form. So it's everything that, online people are like, oh, I wish they taught me this when I was a child. And they have like very basic overviews, high level. It's still a difficult exam, but it's high level exams on the beginnings of all of these and how this work is carried out in the professional services setting. It's very, very interesting.
Yeah. And from your experience, do you find that people kind of sway in terms of their career once they do these exams? They're like, I like this one more than this. Do you find, is that quite common?
Always. Yes. I've had people who have changed industries because they've got an offer somewhere. I've had people who join and then they realise, I really like working with this team, I want to go and join them. And that's quite easy as well because you're already in that professional services setting.
Right.
You've already got that network that you've built. So if you're really good, you can move around a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think for some firms, they even do a 360 degree apprenticeship, which means they move you around different business departments. I don't like that as much. I prefer, because for me it's like if you spend 6 months in a department, there's not much you can learn, there's not much they can teach you before you move on.
Yeah.
But each their own.
For sure, yeah. And a bit about your journey, was it sort of specialised or did you go through that 360 journey?
Well, so I got hired by another team in the middle of it in EY. So it's a bit different, but I think my audit experience in the Canary Wharf office was really useful. And now I've got risk and tax experience where I'm working now. I also get a tiny bit of advisory. Mine's very specialised, yes, but also my team has a big range of things that we're responsible for. So every day can be very different. Mm-hmm. And this really does matter job to job. So a lot of people say, oh, one firm's good at this, the other firm's good at this. That's not really true. Every job description varies, every sector that you go into, every department varies. I think it's a lot easier to imagine the Big Four as just like a group of entrepreneurs together that are the partners and they do their own things that make money in the professional services sector.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you were hired by the team internally during your apprenticeship course. Did that hamper the journey in a way? Because obviously you've got this 4 or 5 year window where you have to complete the course, do the exams. Or is there some sort of leeway provided?
A tiny bit for me, only because the CTA exam dates are roughly the same as the final exam dates for the ACA, which meant I had to delay the qualification for half a year to do my first CTA exam. But even that can differ. I don't think anything hampers it, and also your experience isn't lost by moving somewhere else. Is additional resources and networks that you can reach out on, additional experience that you can leverage on for your day-to-day job.
Yeah. Because in my mind, I'm kind of just thinking like when I was doing my degree apprenticeship and you get project after project after project and you've got coursework and exams and it's all quite overwhelming, but I think the way you're sort of explaining it sounds like almost you kind of embrace the experience and you move forward.
Yeah, and it is hard.
Yeah,
it is hard.
Yeah.
We didn't take an apprenticeship to lie on the beach and sip our cocktails, right? But, I think we work hard and we play hard.
Of course, yeah.
I don't think it's in any way easier. I think it's much harder than going to uni.
Yeah.
But because you're in that environment, you just do it and best make the most of it. Because I mean, just yesterday, I swear I was 19, just joined, and now it's like 4 years on.
Time flies when you're on apprenticeship. Honestly,
Yeah,
it does.
it really does.
And that's why it really links well with what SAFR is trying to do, because we're trying to delve into the experience of the journey. And with an apprenticeship course, time just flies. Like Sunny said, 2019 for me was just yesterday. So much has just happened. And it's been a great journey, so
Exactly.
amazing. So you mentioned CASL. So let's talk a bit about that.
Yes, so CASL stands for the Chartered Accountants Student Society of London. So our governing institute in the United Kingdom is ICAW for accounting, and all of the big accounting firms are governed under ICAW, so that's our kind of professional body. It's also where the ACA comes from. The CIOT actually is responsible for the CTA, which is another governing institute for the tax qualification. And then there's a society below it, below it next to it, it's called the London Society of Chartered Accountants. I'd say that's very similar to where you have your Royal Society of Medicine, Music and Surgery, whatever. It's kind of like a separate society. And then below that, they also have an offshoot, which is the Student Society, and they have these for every region. And I was very privileged to become the youngest and the first ethnically Chinese chair of the Chartered Accountant Student Society of London, which we shortened to CASL because it's just such a mouthful, in its 150-year history. And I actually did it for 2 terms, which only a handful of other chairs have.
Wow, that's incredible. There's a lot to take in there. I mean, you mentioned your first sort of Chinese chairman, you first in 150 years. Tell us a bit about how that was, what was your sort of reaction to that? What was the experience and journey that you had within that sort of, within the journey there?
Yeah, it was great. It was refreshing. I mean, I was 21 when I became chair, I think. And usually these places are normally taken up by people who are a lot older, a lot further on in their career. But I was voted in. I did really well in sponsorship in the year before as a director. And then straight as becoming chair, I was meeting ambassadors from different countries. I met the ambassador of Lebanon, I think, in my first year. I met the Lord Mayor. I've met the Lord Mayor a few times now. I met a bunch of very senior people in the LSCA. I worked very closely with the now president of the institute, which is Malcolm, and he very fortunately was also the president for CASL. So he guides me a little as well. I picked up a mentor, which was then the president of the LSCA, which is the senior society, and she looked after me, she mentored me and told me, showed me the ropes in a way. And once you get into these societies, usually the next step is to become president of the LSCA, and then the next step is to become, if you want, the president of the institute. I think quite a large percentage of the presidents of the institute have come from the London Society compared to the other regional societies, although we try to diversify that out a bit more.
Yeah. And in terms of how you got was it elections, or how did they work in terms of getting you into?
Yeah, it's elections, it's what you've done in the past. So the London region is one of the largest regions for ICAW. We're in charge of I think it's now 6,000 or 7,000 ACA students who are studying these professional qualifications. And we do what a standard professional society does. We have a decent amount of money, it's on Companies House, so it's $250,000 in the bank just to fund these events. I believe you went to the ball and the boat party, where this year, we had the CFO of the Bank of England there, which is a good friend of mine, and we both improve networking and development, especially in this very digitalized age. Bring people together, talk about important topics, and we also have a voice whenever it comes to the qualification itself and the wider implications of what this qualification means. Vicky, who is Vice President on Castle's President Society, she's also the President of the Ethics Committee of ICAW. So we do actually have, it's not just a society like a school club sort of thing, we do have a wider implication on the society itself. Particularly in my years, we actually had a voice in changing the ACA exams. We change it every, however many years, because we want the ACA to be relevant, and when it comes to like a digital age, we question whether some parts are still needed or whether we can replace it with much more important things. So like sustainability, for example, is a very important topic now. So we also have sustainability factored into all of our exams, which is very important.
Yeah. And how do you sort of, when you were doing this as a chairman, how did you juggle it with your apprenticeship as well? Because you got two massive, very big responsibilities working for EY, being chairman of Castle. So how did that all sort of come into fruition?
If you like it, I think it then becomes your life. In fact, it did, because I also met my present girlfriend in an accountancy event. So it really did become every part of my life. But I think it's because, the accountancy profession kind of picked me up when I was just trying new things out. I really loved the idea. I want to give something back, and a lot of the volunteers who, then become directors, so you fill out the APO ones, become director in Companies House, just like we are now for Castle. We want to give back, but we also want to have a voice in what happens in our profession in the future. So yeah, it does get busy, and it does get hard. You just have to balance it and try your best.
We talk a lot about work-life balance. How would you what is your sort of opinion on that in terms of what you've been doing with Castle and EY, and any sort of advice for people that are currently all looking to go on an apprenticeship path or go to university? They might want to start their own venture in a business or social enterprise. What would be your advice? Because I know you've done so much in such a short space of time.
I think work-life balance is really important. However, I also think I kind of see it as like a relationship as well. It's like one of my favourite quotes about relationships is, it's never going to be 50-50. Sometimes it's going to be 80-20, sometimes it's going to be 40-60, sometimes it'll be 100-0. But you have to know that it always adds up to 100. I think where you can have that work-life balance, and work-life balance is not scrolling through TikTok on your bed. That's really unhealthy. But also sometimes it does just get busy, especially if you signed up to this, right? Sometimes I have to remind myself, I did actually sign myself up to this. But there's an obligation. There's 6,000 people, in my boat that's also relying on my voice. But there's also like 24,000 students worldwide that I'm also part of the international committee. And I try my best in that.
Yeah, and you sure do. I mean, I don't have any sort of my industry profession in accounting, but from my experience of the boat party and the event at Moyet Palace, it was incredible. The vibe, the atmosphere, everybody felt very electric, very part of the movement. So
yeah, and that's for our fun events, right? Sometimes we host like revision sessions and lectures, and I'm always fascinated when a lecture goes until like 10 p.m. and still people come out and go, "Oh, that was incredible," and I'm like, "Really? That sounded really boring." But each to their own, and I'm glad we help students. For you guys, it was more important that I opened the network up to other apprentices, to other young professionals, because I also think there was a point where Castle was quite closed. I can't imagine being trapped in a room with 200 accountants. I think that's probably the way to a very non-sober night, just to get the conversation through. But yeah, we do put a lot of thought behind these things, and just make it somewhere that we'd feel like we'd enjoy it.
Yeah.
Certainly when I was chair, actually this year I wasn't chair, right? And it was the first time I actually got to enjoy the ball for everything, compared to my previous years where even though we had like Britain's Got Talent finalists and winners of Business Book Awards giving speeches, I was in the background firefighting every 5 minutes. So now I get to reap the rewards of enjoying it for what it is.
Yeah. And it must be really rewarding for you now, because you've done your bit, you've seen it grow, and it's just that the future chairman, chair ladies have to kind of just put,
Yeah, and we won 2 PQ Magazine awards as well, which is the accountancy magazine for the accounting profession, and we were one of the first societies to do it twice, but also that was our first and second PQ Magazine award ever.
Right.
And that was great because we beat all the other professional qualifications, all of the universities that were against us, and I think that was something special. That was very rewarding as well.
Yeah. And were you chairman at the time of that?
I was chairman for both the times that we won
right.
it, yes, and hopefully the incoming society we'd win it again, so it'll be 3 times in 4 years.
Yeah, amazing.
We didn't get nominated this year, but next year hopefully we'll retain it.
Fingers crossed. Do you have any plans for any more parties coming up with council next year?
We always do. Yeah. However, I'm not in charge. Well, I'll shoot you an invite whenever I hear.
Of course. It's going to put in the calendar as soon as possible. Amazing.
It's great parties.
Yeah. And then so touching back on obviously all you've done so far to the current day where you're working with EY, and is that still the same role? Obviously you had the apprenticeship and then you got sort of onboarded into an internal team. Are you still in that team or are you working in a different realm?
Yeah, so I'm still working that team. I had a secondment in risk as well, where I helped out create an Ultrix system for them, a Power BI dashboard. And now, I'm back in the tax advisory team. So front office advisory, really great stuff.
Yeah.
Really exciting. It changes every day, and because we're working with slightly smaller businesses, or some of these businesses are still gigantic, it's different, and it's very different sectors as well.
Yeah. Is there any specific industry that you worked with a client that you really enjoyed, or is it just kind of like this varies depending on type of work that needs to be done or things that
You know what? So I was helping out with the judging for EY Entrepreneur of the Year awards this year, which is something that EY hosts for amazing entrepreneurs, and it's kind of this competition for small business owners. And I got the memos for a lot of those businesses, and I was like, I'm not sure if I'm interested in this, but I said I'll help out. And then when you met the entrepreneurs, you're like, wow, this is amazing. It's a fantastic business idea. Never cared about chemistry, but I would love to work with this man. There's so much potential. And I think that's really what opens the world up for you, is even though you sometimes have clients that you might think are, not in a sector that you're interested in, they are such great entrepreneurs that they can really pull you into a sector and be really passionate about it.
Yeah, amazing. You mentioned the word entrepreneur quite a lot here in the conversation. Firstly, with the big four being sort of like entrepreneurs, with the competition that you're talking about as well. I'm interested to see what with this person that works within the chemistry. So obviously that's not your sort of realm. You work with more finance. But what was it specifically about that person or their idea that kind of made you think that this idea could go much further?
So I used to work with investment banks quite a bit, and it was just a small cog in a big company sort of vibe. Now it's, for me, small businesses excite me more because there's just so much growth potential. But there's just so many more ideas where I just thought, wow, I would have never thought of that, but that actually completely makes sense. And you can see how these guys have done it and grown a massive business out of it. That's what interests me. A lot of them are trying to solve problems in the world, right, whether it's in sustainability or just your day-to-day problems, and you get a good range. I think that range also excites me, but also it kind of makes you able to hold a conversation with just about anyone, because eventually you just know so much about loads of different niches and ideas. That's really fulfilling to me as well.
Yeah, I can imagine it's a massive learning opportunity when you work with so many different diverse clients with sort of different industries and such. That must be an incredible experience.
And the younger generation, get a mentor who can show you the world. These entrepreneurs will probably be fantastic mentors. I was very lucky to have an amazing mentor, but it just brings you out to your vision of the world, which might be quite big, but it's actually it's a very small cog again.
Yeah.
And just open you up to the whole world of different opportunities.
Yeah.
I like business just in general, whatever capacity it comes in, and that's where it's been really fulfilling to me. And you might notice that through none of that I've been talking about tax. I mean, I think tax is a very good skill to have, it's an amazing base to have those opportunities. But I think people very rarely join accounting or tax because they like accounting or tax. They like businesses, and that's what we're really doing. We're helping to improve businesses. Yeah.
You talked about finding a mentor. If somebody's sort of watching this right now, they're like, where do I look for a mentor? What specifically do I look for in a mentor? What would be your advice?
That is a good question. I'd say start by thinking where you want to be. My best piece of advice is, what do you see of yourself 40 years from now? And this is further than the interview question of what do you see for yourself 5 years from now. Yeah. Start from 40 or 60 years from now. When you retire, what kind of people do you want to be around? What kind of friends do you want to have? What career? What do you want to say you've done? And then start planning that way. And then reduce that to 30, reduce that to 20, reduce that to 10, and then to 5, and to 1. And, they can be as outlandish as you want. Certainly when I got there, being chair of Castle was quite outlandish at 21 years old. I still achieved it. And then think about reasonable ways where you can achieve those, right? I think a lot of people say to me, oh, I don't know how to plan, or I don't know what I'm going to do in 1 year, let alone 60 years. I always say, okay, well, do you want friends at 60 years old? Do you want people who like dentistry, let's say? Okay, well, you probably have to then network through those circles to get them, because if you're just on your couch on TikTok, or it used to be YouTube in my day, but the videos have gotten shorter and now it's TikTok, you're probably not going to find or make many of those friends in the dentistry area. Could say the same about entrepreneurs. And if you don't know what you like, go out there and try. And once you go out there, same with mentors, you'll find them.
Yeah, for sure. And again, links back to the experience and the journey, right? Trying to get out of your comfort zone, making the most of being at events. Like we didn't go to the Association of Apprenticeships event, we wouldn't have met each other. And likewise, if you didn't invite me to the Castle events, we wouldn't have you having this conversation now.
Yeah,
exactly. Because we've been able to develop such a good friendship, as well as meet other people on the journey as well. So I think that's a really incredible thing that you mentioned there.
Very much so.
Yeah, amazing. And then in terms of obviously the chair role has been now, if you're not in your term at the moment, but perhaps what do you see for the foreseeable future for the role with Castle, and in terms of opening up for not just accounting students but also for maybe university students that are aspiring to work in accountancy or business? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'd say even though plan your life out, keep it broad. Don't plan every single minute that you're so busy that new opportunities and open doors can't appear, or you can't afford to take them. I've always been on the assumption, get to A and B first. I've planned out C, D, E and F, right? But get to B first. A lot of people then make that mistake of, I must get that, but they delay the route that they plan to take to get them there. And then, do something that interests you. I might stay in my firm if it interests me. I might go to a particular client that I'm interested in. I've seen a lot of colleagues at EY, they got hired by their clients. Or if you find a career path, or you find a particular industry that you feel like, wow, this is really interesting, I never knew this existed. I mean, I never knew my corporate taxation advisory role existed when I was 18 years old, 17 years old. I didn't even know it existed when I was 20 until I joined later in my career. And that's the thing, there'll be so many new doors opening, so many jobs that are available that you would never know about right now. Your job is just to keep on a good path, to have as many open doors as possible, and just open them. And step in, you can always come step back out, unless it's jail or prison, and just experience it.
But I think, would you say that it's more so, I mean, there's that sort of quote that we talk about, it's not the destination, but rather the journey, enjoying the journey, falling in love with the process. Would you agree with that?
I would. I would also agree as the companions. It's the people who go on that journey with you. I think that's really important. But yeah, enjoy the journey. I mean, I would like to think, as soon as you go into finance, I don't think you'll worry about wealth or money. You will eventually get there. You eventually get a good job, at least currently. I don't know, I can't comment like 20, 30 years time. So don't worry too hard about it. You're already on that journey. Do something that you enjoy. You know, so what if it's a few £100,000 less or £10,000 less? You're going to be pretty well off anyway. Just do something that you like, something that you're passionate about. And I mean, I come from an Asian community, and I don't want to make judgments, but it's probably the same with you, where, you know, we're forced to, like, do maths and English, GCSEs, A-levels, and then go to a good uni and do maths because your parents wanted you to, and get a good job in finance. And I just think I've seen a lot of people who become really depressed through that. Got the money, so what? You'll become depressed just by chasing that money. And if you're smart, you'll get there anyway. I really do think that. I mean, I don't think I'm smart. I didn't go through the preferred professional well-trodden path. I'm still here.
Yeah.
I think a lot of apprentices are the same. Some apprentices crazy smart. I'm sure you'll probably have a lot more in your podcast. Some, they still get it because there's the passion, and as long as you follow your passion, you're probably willing to work that double or triple the amount of time. You're probably willing to make it your life. And that's what gets you ahead in the long run.
Yeah.
It's the tortoise and the hare race. No matter how much you try, you'll never be able to beat someone who has a real interest and passion for it. Same with fencing. I mean, you know, one of the reasons, to be honest, that I quit fencing was because after I lost, all I could think of was, oh, what am I going to eat on the way back? Probably like a McDonald's or a kebab if I do well. My other friends were like in the mornings getting up at 5 a.m. doing like press-ups before the 5K warm-up that we had, whilst I was just snuggled up in bed thinking, oh, I've got to get up at 9 to do a 5K warm-up before I do actual training for another 8 hours. But that's the biggest advantage, that you don't have to find anywhere else to look, just look inside yourself.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful way to put it, if I'm perfectly frank. One of the things that I've kind of had this sort of realization recently, that's quite personal to me, is about the journey and, like you said, the companions on the way, the people that you meet. I never thought I'd be in the position where I am right now, a year ago, but the journey has just been so lovely, and it excites me thinking about the future. And I do want to touch on one more topic about purpose, and you talk about looking internally. Do you think by taking action first, then you can develop your purpose, or would you rather have, or do you think it's better to have a purpose first, then take action on that? And do you think, is it ever evolving? So as you do the actions and you start to meet people and try different experiences, it's always changing?
Yeah, I believe it's the latter. I believe, through your actions you can find a purpose, and through inaction you will really struggle to find a purpose. I really do think that. And, as your view of the world improves or expands, welcome those new cultures and new opinions, and then you'll form new purposes around that. I do believe that.
It's amazing. And in terms of being the sort of notion of kind of being open, more so open-minded to different experiences and different cultures, and what, as you said, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, see, I probably tell you to, I tell a lot of young people to stop scrolling on TikTok and stuff, but I still do on like Instagram and stuff. And one thing that I really gets on my nerves is people who, just comment, these keyboard warriors who comment about a country not realising they're being quite hypocritical, or they've just never been there or never experienced the country themselves, and they just form opinions without actually experiencing it. And I think that's such a shame, because I think finding what the world's about is a great thing. One of the foundations of Sikhism, right, is you share your cultures and beliefs. You welcome everyone to like pray at your is it a mosque? It's
Gurdwara.
It's a Gurdwara.
The Sikh temple is called Gurdwara, and anyone's welcome to come to witness prayers, to have langar, which is a communal kitchen where people come and they make food together, they eat it together to break down those social barriers.
Yeah, I think that's a lovely thing.
Yeah.
I do remember learning about it when I was younger.
Amazing. We'll probably head off to Gurdwara soon and I'll see you on.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Amazing.
Yeah. I mean, for A-levels I actually did religious studies, philosophy and ethics. It was one thing that I was very interested in. Even then, by the time I reached my A-levels, I dropped every GCSE that I had an A-star in and just did stuff that I was really interested in. I think just had that mindset of, if you're interested in it, do it. And never looked back.
Yeah. Even
now I've got brilliant conversations. I actually didn't find out that I was dyslexic until I joined EY. And I was quite shocking at English because of it, because you get marks on what is it called, SPAG and stuff, and that was always shocking, but I still chose English literature for my A-levels because I just liked reading books. So do what you want. I think a lot of kids these days, they're stressed about, I should do this and do this to get to this degree and stuff. Do something that you enjoy. And don't do stuff that's easy. Do hard things that you enjoy. That's why you find real purpose.
Yeah. And again, you won't find what those things that you enjoy are unless you actually do it and have the experience.
Exactly.
So that links very well. Final questions before we end off the podcast is, obviously you've done a lot so far at such a young age. Well, I think we're similar age anyways, but you definitely trumped me in many ways. What is your sort of vision for the next 5-10 years? I know I'm making it sound like a job interview, but where do you see yourself?
There is a good measure of this. I think it's called the level 10 life, where when people ask that question, I think they just focus solely on careers. That's not all your life is. There's volunteering work, there's religion or spirituality if you're not religious. There is your career, your hobbies, and what you want to achieve through all of those. In the immediate future, I want to pass my professional qualifications, get that double certification. Probably want to go flying. I used to do aerobatic flying when I was in the Air Cadets when I was younger. I really enjoyed that. If I wanted to do any other career, I'd probably want to become a pilot or something. And get fit again. So I gained a lot of weight in my time. They treat me too well, actually.
Oh, okay.
Very different from the diets I used to be on. So that's really important. And I think looking after your health and your when you can is really important. A lot of people will tell you everything about their job, but then if you ask like, what's your average heart rate per minute, or what's your, glycemic acid index, and what's your BMI, they don't know anything. But if you ask anyone, it's Stephen Bartlett says it so often. If you ask anyone, what's the most important thing, most of them will say health. Next would be finances, and I guarantee you most people don't know exactly how much they have in their bank account. So I'd say health and finance is very important, as well as the career, and you want to progress on all fronts in the next 5 years.
Yeah, for sure. It's that balance, that holistic balance of all things.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Sunny. Thank you for sharing your journey so far. It'll be interesting to see what you go on into the future. But yeah, thank you very much for being the first guest on the SAFR Show.
Thank you.
Brilliant.